Close the doors of your mind, close the gates of your mind, close the gates of your palace, your ba'ith, your ahal, your ohel, your tent, your mishkan, your body, the body that you dwell inside. And bring your body to center, bring your mind to center. Put away all the cares of this life, deceitfulness of riches, and uncertain riches, with riches that one hopes to gain in this life, and your unjust gain, and the gains that you may think that you may have in this life, knowing that the gaining of salvation is greater than anything you can ever attain on this earth. For many things look like a hob on earth, but there's only one love that is greater than all. He said, no greater love than this, that a man lay down his life for his friend. But that's the greatest love that one can do for anyone on this earth. So we look at ourselves as that being, that Abad in the earth. For today we acknowledge the one, Yahuwah Elohim, on this shabath, the one who gives life and understanding to all creatures of the earth. All Bahima, Oath, Daga, and Ramiz, all Zakar Nakaba, all male and female. For they, even the creation itself, he said, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the Arats. Even in ourselves, we must be fruitful and multiply and replenish our minds. For our mind can go in imaginations that can be detrimental and depreciation to oneself. So today we acknowledge the one who made all the hard in the heart of the earth, all the rivers and streams on the surface of the earth, under the earth, even the river and stream that flow from the throne of Yahuwah, the Kisei sapphire throne that sits above all, and we sit under his feet. The one who always has his feet in water. The one who always looking for a male and female to wash his feet and to sit at his feet and learn the bar of Yahuwah Elohim. So as we move forward in the fruits that he requires us to bear always within our inner man and our inner being. So this is the book of Second Enoch, Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1. This is Second Enoch, Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, Chapter 43. Second Enoch, Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, Chapter 43, and verse 1. It says, And behold, my children, having experienced the things that have been ordered, have checked out and written down. It says, and in all things I discovered differences, just as Yahuwah commanded me, and in all things I discovered differences. For just as 1 year is more honorable than another year, so we're in the 12th month. We're in the last day of the year in a 364-day cycle, going toward the longest day. 182 thrones, moving along the 7 celestial circles, going towards the first day of a new year. But he said every year is different than another year. And you get what it says. And in all these things I discovered differences. For just as 1 year is more honorable than another year, so one person is more honorable than another person. So even as we look at ourselves, everybody wants to be somebody in the world. Everybody wants to be acknowledged as someone great or somebody that has accomplished a lot in the earth. But it says, some because of much property, and if you didn't get any property this year, you didn't buy anything, you didn't have any assets, and you didn't acquire any wealth in this year, guess what? You ain't nothing to the world. Guess what? And some because of the wisdom of heart. So you didn't ask Yahuwah for any hakmah, any wisdom in your heart and your mind. That because he can give it to all. If you don't desire health and beauty, I want wisdom to get health and beauty. I want wisdom to have a seat, a governmental seat. I want wisdom to be able to, if you don't have wisdom, if you ain't want wisdom to judge properly within yourself, then you ain't got no wisdom. And it says, some because of singular intelligence, because you intelligent in one subject matter. So therefore you have a lot of intelligence. And every year is different. Every person is different. And it says, and some because of the craftiness, right? Because we talk about so much craftiness. Even as you look through the Torah, you see so much craftiness. Even as these shahs and male and female have so much craftiness to accomplish their work in the earth. And it says, some because of silence of lips, because they're so quiet. Because even a fool, when he is quiet, is considered wise. It don't mean they're wise because they're quiet. All these say, some because they are solemn. And guess what? Some because of purity, all the purifications they practice. They never transgress none of them. Even when semen comes out of a man and he cleans himself, or a woman has a discharge when she hit in her menstrual cycle. Guess what? It's all the same. And everybody has to wash themselves clean. The very same in your flesh. And guess what? Some because of strength, because I was in the gym, you was working out, you exercise, you got a lot of strength when it comes to fighting your battles in the physical reality. And it says, and some because of handsome appearance, right? Because guess what? Beauty allows you to gain a lot of money in this world. Matter of fact, it can allow you to get a lot of unjust gain too, if you do it well. But guess what? Some because of youth, because you're young, because you feel like you're a youthful person. You can run fast, jump high. You can do many things. You can backflip. You can free run, right? You can dive deep, go 30 feet deep with one breath and hold your breath for 5 minutes, right? Guess what? Some, again, because of penetrating of mind, right? They can penetrate your mind just by their words they speak. And some because of bodily appearance, because they have beautiful skin. They're flawless. Right? And then you get a victory over any person. And it says, and some again for abundance of feelings. They cry a lot. They have a lot of kindness and joy. They love that. Abundance of feelings. They cry, right? They have emotion, right? For everything. But guess what? Even though these things are heard on every side, nevertheless, there is no one better, right? So all these things that you desire in this life, people want to acquire these things and they want to feel like they're somebody. They want to feel like they're somebody, but he said there's no one better. So if you want to be better than all these people I just named, that I talked about, then he or she who fears Elohim, Yuhu. So do you feel like you're better than, you feel like there's nobody better on earth? And guess what? He will be the most glorious kabod in that age, right? So you look at all that. So do you believe that you are the most kabod and the most glorious in this age that you currently live in while you're on the earth right now? If not, then your mind does not fear Yahuwah. But if you do believe this, then this is for you, right? This is Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1 and verse 14. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1 verse 14. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 1 verse 14. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the expanse of the Shamayim to separate the day from the night, to separate darkness, Ereb, from he say Yum from Ereb, right? Day from Kashak. And let them be for signs, for seasons, for days, years, and muads, and let them be lights in the expanse of the Shamayim to give light upon the earth. Because there's no one better than those who fear Yahuwah. So you believe you believe you're a light of the world. You're supposed to get light on the earth, or you should be better. You should say, I don't feel like I'm better than all those things that second Enoch named. Then guess what? It says, and it was so. Let them be for signs, Ayod, seasons, muads, Yum, Shina, right? Years, and let them be lights in the expanse of the Shamayim to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made the two greater lights, the greater light, the Gadol Ma'or to rule the day, and the Gadol Ma'or to rule the night, and the Kukab, the stars. So there's no one better. There's no one better. And Elohim set them in the expanse of the Shamayim to give light on the earth. So do you believe that you're the oil of the world? Because if you're going to be a good manager in the world, and you have to believe that yours no one better than those who fear Yahuwah. If you're going to be a good manager in the world, and to be a good manager of yourself, right? And it says to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. So, and there was evening and there was morning, the fourth day, fourth Yom. Why? Because this is important. Revelations chapter 7 and verse 1. Revelations, Hazun, chapter 7 and verse 1. Hazun, Revelations chapter 7 and verse 1. And after this, I saw 4 Malachim standing at the 4 corners of the Adar. Why? Because we just read on the 4th day what he made. Matter of fact, how are you? He said, how do you understand what it's like? How do you understand that? It says, the 4 corners of the Adar, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, that no wind might blow on the Adar or the sea or any tree. Right? So they don't even want the rule to move, don't even want the rule to blow on the earth, on the yam, and on the tree. What do you see? When was the trees created? On the 3rd day of creation. When was the yam created? On the 2nd day. He said, when was the earth created? It was here before Yahuwah even spoke a word. Because there's no one greater than those who fear Yahuwah. And guess what? Then I saw another Malachim ascending from the rising of the sun. Because you know a man and a woman are ordering his house, just like we read in Sirach 26. In 2 Samuel chapter 23, it talks about the rising of the sun when you order your house rightly in the fear of Elohim. So do you believe that there is no one greater than those who fear Yahuwah? Right, because he said, it's not my debar like fire. Because if you're going to be a good manager, you're going to have to believe this, that you are the highest order on the Adars. And guess what? Then I saw the Malachim ascending from the rising of the sun, because he said he's just like a bridegroom leaving his chamber. And guess what? With the seal of the living Elohim, he said he got the seal of the living Elohim, just like he had the seal at the 4 corners of the altar. And guess what? And he called with a loud voice to the 4 Malachim. And he called with a loud voice to the 4 Malachim. What did he say? Who had been given power to harm the Adar and the sea, to harm the earth, which is here before you, and the yam, which was here before you. Saying, do not harm the earth or the sea, or the trees. When do these things take place? When did the seeds start growing? And when did the trees start to get taken and uprooted? The most. When you get to the transition times of the seasonal cycles, nobody holds a war in the middle of a whirlwind season. Nobody holds a war in the middle of hurricane season. Nobody holds a war in the middle of these types of events. Why? Because your ship's going to have a lot of problems during these times. Why? But guess what? Do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our Elohim in their foreheads. He said, don't do it. Because he can send a Malachi, because they have whirlwinds. They have storms. They have earthquakes. They have hurricanes. They can uproot trees. They can move things out the way. They can send fire. He said, don't do it. Until you have sealed your servants a bod of Elohim in their forehead. What do you mean a bod? Because the only way you're going to be a servant, you got to be in a certain type of state of mind, right? This is the book of Hebrews. Actually, go to Philippians chapter 2. We're going to get out here. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 7. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 7. Go to Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. It says, Philippians chapter 2, verse 3, do nothing from selfish ambitions or conceit, right? So you can't be thinking about yourself. But in humility, count others more significant than yourself. We just read in 2nd Enoch, Hanuk. He said there's no one better than those who fear Yahuwah. But why is it saying don't hold yourself more significant than the other, right? Why? Because you have your earthly nature. Because everything we read in 2nd Enoch, that's earthly stuff. But he said when you start fearing Yahuwah, that's a whole nother different level of higher understanding. And it says right here, do nothing with selfish ambitions or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. Let each let each of you look not only to his own interest, but also on the interest of others. Have this mind among yourselves, which is in yours in Mashiach Yahushua. Why? Because you read in Hazum, he said, don't even do all these things on the earth or in the sea until I seal the servants of the Elohim in their foreheads. Why? Because they got to have a certain mindset. You have to have this mindset in order for them to even give you what people say, I desire to be, they say, sealed in my forehead, in my frontal lobe. Frontless between my eyes. You desire, you have to fear Yahuwah and keep his commandments. Why? Because it says, let each of you look not on his own interest, but also on the interest of others. Why? Because if you don't have the fear of Yahuwah, you're gonna be coveting your neighbor's house, wife, his nashim, his maid servant, men servant, his ox, donkey, everything that's your neighbor's. You're gonna be doing that. And you're gonna be doing it continually. That's all you're gonna be doing. But guess what? Have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Mashiach Yahushua, who though he was in the form of Elohim, did not count equality with Elohim a thing to be grasped. So what are you? There's no one better than those who fear Yahuwah. So what are you on the earth right now? Who are you? What form are you in? You're in the form of Elohim right now in the earth, right now. That's what you are. Because he said in Ukanan chapter 10, and he said it in Psalms 82. That's what you are, in the earth right now. And it says, did not count equality with Elohim a thing to be grasped. He said, I will never think that I can be just like the one who sits in the highest Shamayim. But all of the immersion Yahushua have put him on. So what do you think you are? Are you a supreme manager? But guess what it says? Who, though he was in the form of Elohim, did not count equality with Elohim a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking on the form of a bod, a servant, till he has sealed his servants in their forehead. So are you sealed in your forehead yet? Are you a bod yet? Are you a servant? Being born in the likeness of men, you're born in the likeness of men. And being found in human form, that's you, he humbled himself until the servants of Elohim is sealed in their foreheads. Sanah, Anah, Anua, Kana. By becoming obedient to the point of death. That's why he said, I need to seal these people in their foreheads, because if I'm going to do things on the Arats and the sea and all these things, I have to seal them in their foreheads, that they can be obedient to the point of death. Even the death of totality, the cross, sign, signature, exit, four corners, the two. But guess what? Therefore Elohim has highly exalted him and bestowed upon him a name that's above every name. So that at the name of Yahushua, every knee should bow. Because everybody ain't going to bow. They're not going to bow. Because his name starts with a Yod. Nobody wants to bow to an Elohim whose name starts with a Yod, open right hand. Nobody wants to bow to an Elohim. He said attainment. You want to attain something? You talking about male energy, masculine? And get what it says. He said, every knee should shakah, you should bow. And he said, in Shamayims and on the Adars and under the earth. That's in 3 different places. That's 3 different places. And guess what? And every tongue confess that Yahushua Mashiach is master to the kabod of Elohim the Father. Why? Because this is all important. He says, so why we start there? Because everything happens for a reason. Nothing just happens, right? This is Psalms Tahalim chapter 18 and verse, actually goes to Psalms chapter 23. Psalms 23 and 1. Psalms 23 and 1. Tahalim 23 and 1. Tahalim 23 and 1. It says, Yahuwah is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. Why? Because what's green pastures? As rain and snow come down from Shamayim, so does the barley that goes out of my mouth. He leads me beside still waters. Still waters. That water is not moving. Why? He restores my soul. Nefesh. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. To the kabod of Yahuwah himself. Not for your sake. Let no one count himself more significant than the other. Not for your sake. Not for your sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I need to make them obedient to the point of death. He humbled himself and was obedient to the point of death. I will fear no evil. Why? I ain't fearing no ra. You are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Your discipline. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, and my cup overflows. That's the very same thing that happened to Yahusha when he was taking Pesach, when Judas was sitting at the table, and he prepared him a table before his enemies, and the woman came and anointed his head. He said, what did she say she anointed his head for? His death. He had to be obedient to the point of death. That's why he said, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that's why she poured the oil on his head. And who led him to that point where he had to be obedient to death? Yahuwah himself. And guess what it says? You anointed my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me. So good people and merciful people will follow this. They will. All the days of my life. You'll do it all the days of your life. You'll be good and merciful all the days of your life. And guess what you're going to do? And I shall dwell in the house of Yahuwah forever. So if you have goodness and mercy, that's what do you mean, goodness and mercy? Because that's a part of the very same fruits that one need to have. But guess what? Go to Psalms 15 and 1. Tahalim, Psalms 15 and 1. Tahalim, Psalms 15 and 1. Psalms 15 and 1. O Yahuwah, who shall sojourn in your tent? Man, who's going to do it? Who's going to sojourn in your tent? Your Ohel. Who shall dwell in Yehuda's hill? He said, I'm going to dwell in the house of Yahuwah forever. But you got to be obedient to death. Who shall dwell on Yehuda's har? Who shall walk? He who walks blamelessly and does what is right, and speaks the truth in his or her heart, who does not slander with his tongue. And that's speaking words to ruin somebody's reputation and a lie. He who does no evil to his neighbor, I mean, you don't covet your neighbor's house, his donkey, his ox, anything that's your neighbor, his nashim, his maidservant, menservant, his understanding, his wisdom, anything he owns, anything that may be something that you may desire. You don't know evil to your neighbor. You're going to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Nor take up reproach against his friend. Why? Because everybody suffers reproach. He said, if the reproach Yahuwah that reproached you, it fell on me. In whose eyes a vile person is despised, but who honors those who fear Yahuwah, because there's nobody greater. Guess what? Who swears to his own hurt and does not change, right? Why? You know what happens? Who does not put out his money at interest, right? Because these are all a part of how one needs to be in the earth. But guess what? And does not take a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall never be moved from the house of Yahuwah, right? But you know what happens? The people in the house of Yahuwah, you know how they be saying, people say their place is the house of Yahuwah. They'll do these practices and put the sin on somebody else and cast them out. But guess what? You got to bear the reproach. Because the reproaches of those who reproach you, Yahuwah, it fell on me. You got to do the same thing Yahusha did. And you got to be obedient to death. You got to do it. Right, so this is the book of Exodus, Shamuth. Exodus, Shamuth, chapter 3. Exodus, Shamuth, chapter 3, 1 through 6. Now Ashar was keeping the flock of his father-in-law, right? Because he was an abad, he was a servant. Because you got to be a servant. You got to humble yourself and become a servant till you leave. Even to the point of death. Now Ashar was keeping his father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian. And he led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Yahuwah, right? So look at all that. He led the sheep. He led his father's flock, his father-in-law. Then he was a priest, which means that he was disciplined. He had a little discipline within himself and how he conducted himself. Because you ain't going to be no kahan, no priest, without any type of discipline. He led his flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, to the mountain of Yahuwah. And the Malach of Yahuwah appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of a bush. He appeared to him out of a flaming fire out of the midst of a bush. Right? This is Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 29. Isaiah chapter 29 and verse 4. Yeshayahu chapter 29 and verse 4. And you will be brought low from the earth you shall speak, and from the dust your speech will be bowed down. Right? Because you got to humble yourself even in the point of death. Your voice shall come from the ground like a voice of a ghost, and from the dust of your speech shall whisper. This is ESV. But the multitude of your foreign foes shall be like small dust, and the multitude of your ruthless like passing chaff. And in an instant, suddenly, you will be visited by Yahuwah of hosts with thunder, with earthquake, with great noise, with whirlwind, with tempest, and the flaming of devouring fire. But he can't do that until he sealed his servants in there for him. He can't do it full strength. But guess what? But he said devouring fire. But he said the fire that Yahuwah gives, he says devouring fire, right? Going back to Exodus Shamuth, chapter 3, verse 2. And the Malach of Yahuwah appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. He looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. So his bush was burning, but yet the fire was not eating the bush. It was not consuming the bush. And guess what? And Ashar said, I will turn aside to see this great sight. Have you turned aside yet? Why is the bush not burned? Why? Because when you have a Malachi and you come from another world into this world, right? Everything changes and how things operate. Time displacement. Nothing just happens. Time displacement. You see fire, but the fire don't move at the same time sequence as it moves in this reality. And guess what? And when Yahuwah saw that he turned aside to see, Yahuwah called to him out of the bush, right? So have you turned aside to see it? Or your iron is off. Or matter of fact, you ain't in the garden because it started with an iron. You ain't in a bod because it started with an iron. And you ain't a newer, and that means humble. And it started with an iron. So therefore you can't see it. Because if he did, he said, when Yahuwah saw that he turned aside to see, Yahuwah called to him out of the bush. First you got to turn aside. You got to stop what you're doing. And then you have to see. Because he was leading sheep of his father-in-law to the Midian, and guess what? It was the right thing to do. But when you're doing all of that, and you got all that responsibility, and you see something like this, he says you got to stop what you're doing. Right? That's the whole point. And people can't stop. Right? So this is the book of People can't stop, right? So this is the book of Luke chapter 10 and verse 38. Luke or Yah 10 and 38. Luke or Yah 10 and 38. Now as they went on their way, Yahusha entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at your master's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with so much serving. You know what Michelle doing right now? He is serving too. Adar. The servants are sealed in their forehead. But there's a certain thing you got to understand. And she went up to him and said, Master, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Because she ain't turned aside yet. She ain't turned aside to see why this bush ain't burning. Why is this bush not burning? Why is it not consumed? She ain't stopped. And guess what? But Martha is so distracted with so much serving. And she went up to him and said, Master, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her to help me. But the master answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things. But one thing is necessary. Marie has chosen the good portion that will not be taken away from her. Right? Going back to Exodus, Shamuth, chapter 3 and verse 3. Exodus, Shamuth, chapter 3 and verse 3. And Mashah said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, while the bush is not burnt. And when Yahuwah saw that he turned aside to see, Yahuwah called to him out of the bush, Mashah, Mashah, and he said, Here am I. Shemuel, Shemuel, here am I. And then he said, do not come near, take your sandals off your feet. He said, don't even come near. Take your sandals off your feet and get connected to the earth that you are standing on. Because it's the only way you're going to understand why this bush is not burning and why it's not consumed. You got to take your shoes off and get connected back to the earth. And let your feet feel the dirt again. Let your feet touch the ground again. And then you will understand what it's like, and you can be fused back with the earth again. And he said, do not come near, take your sandals off your feet, for the place from which you are standing is Kudash ground. Why? Because he just appeared to him. Anything where Yahuwah appears is Kudash ground. And when it's Kudash ground, take your shoes off your feet and put your feet on the Kudash ground, that you may be connected and you may be fused back to the earth again. And he said, I am the Elohim of your father, the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Yaakov. And Mashah hid his face, for he was afraid to look at Elohim. And then he hid his face. How he hid his face? He hit the ground. He bowed down with his shoes off his feet on Kudash ground. So that means he put his feet on the ground, Then he bowed his forehead to the ground. To the Kadashim are sealed in their foreheads. To the Abad are sealed in their foreheads. All right, so that word for consumed is a call. Where do you find that word a call at? The first time. It means to eat, to devour, to burn up. He said, and the Malach Yahuwah appeared to him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush was burning, yet it was not consumed. It was not a call. The fire burning was not eating the bush. And then it says, it was burnt up to feed, to eat, to destroy, consume. But you see that word a call in the very same book when he made Adam. in Bereshit chapter 1, verse 28, 29. He said, behold, I'm giving every plant yielding seed gonna be for food. He said, you shall have for food for your akar. He said, and for the animals. He said, akla and akar. But it says to eat. Right? So that word for the bush is not burned. That word for burned, the bush is not burned. Right? So Ashar said, I will turn aside to see this great sight, while the bush is not burned. That word is ba'ar. Ba'ar. It means to burn, to consume. Ba'ar. You ain't talking about a bar of candy, because that will destroy your stomach and increase the parasites and a lot of parasites that grow inside of your body. But it said the bush is not burned. It means consumed, to kindle, to begin to burn. It hasn't, to be kindled. It haven't even been consumed, and nothing's happened. This makes no sense. Why is this bush not burned? The only way you're gonna get the answer to that question, you're gonna have to bow your head to the ground. And you're gonna have to take your shoes off your feet. Because that's all a part of it. But what's the point of all this? Right, this is the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 48 and verse 8. Isaiah chapter 48 and verse 8. Isaiah, Yeshayahu chapter 48 and verse 8. Actually 48 and 7. It says, they are created now, not long ago, before today you have never heard of them. Lest you should say, behold, I knew them. You know how people say, I know it already. You get what he said? You have never heard, you have never known. From of old, your ear has not been open. He said, your ear has not been open. For I knew that you would surely deal treacherously. He said, I already know that you would deal treacherously. And that from before birth, you were called a rebel. You would say, I already knew what you were. For my name's sake, I defer my anger. He said, for my name's sake, I defer it. Right? Because we just read, for his name's sake. That's why he do it. He lead me in righteousness for his name's sake. It ain't for your sake. Let no one count himself more significant than the other. Because you're a rebel. You've always been one. If we weren't rebels, then why you got to reseal you in your forehead again? Because you're a rebel. You always been one. Everybody. For my name's sake, I defer my anger. Loosen not the four winds of the four corners of the earth to the Adar are sealed in their forehead. For my name's sake, for my sake, for the sake of my praise, I restrain it for you. For who? For you. He could do it now. But he's only restraining all this power that he has that one cannot comprehend for you. For you. That I may not cut you off for you. For you. Behold, I have refined you. He said, why is this bush not burned? But not as silver. He said, but not as what you would call things that people value in the earth, that people will sell you out for money for. I have tried you in the furnace of affliction. He said, I've tried you. For my own sake, I do it. For how should my name be profaned? Why is this bush not consumed? Why is it not consuming it? For my name's sake, I hold it back from consuming you. For my name's sake, I hold it back from burning you. For my own sake, I do it. For how should my name be profaned? My kabod I will not give to another gadol ma'or. There is no one greater who fears Yahuwah, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule by the night. In the kukah. But guess what? Listen to me, O Yaakov, and Yasharal, whom I called. Loose not the four winds at the four corners of the Adar, to the servants a bar are sealed in their foreheads. And I am the last. He said, I am he. I am the first, I am the Aleph, and I am the last. I am the two. I am the Aleph. My hand laid the foundation of the earth, and my right hand, or you mean my yard, because the 10th letter of the Aleph is, spread out the Shamaim. When I call to them, they stand forth together. You know what people say? He said they stand forth together. He said they stand forth together. Right? So this is, and that's important. Right? So going to the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel. Daniel chapter 4. Daniel chapter 5. Book of Daniel chapter 4 and verse 1. Actually, Daniel chapter 3 verse 1. 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 And King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and his breadth 6 cubits. Right. He said an image of gold. What is gold? Gold is used as value. It's $4,299 $4,995 right now, right? Per ounce. Whose height was 60 cubits and his breadth 6 cubits. And he set it up in the plain of Adar, in the province of Babylon. And King Nebuchadnezzar sent to gather the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, and the counselors, and the treasurers, and the justice, and the magistrates, and all the officials of the province to come to the dedication of the image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And the satraps, and the prefects, and the governors, and the counselors, and the treasurers, and the justice, and the magistrates, and all the officials of the province gathered to the dedication of the image of King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And they heralded and proclaimed aloud, "You are commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the trigon, the harp, the bagpipe, and every kind of music, you are to fall down and worship the image that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up." He said, fall down. Let it be, matter of fact, bow down to the ground and be sealed in your foreheads. But when you look at Mashah, when he hit the ground, when he saw Yahuwah, when he shakah, he bowed his head to the ground. He covered his face. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast in a burning fiery furnace. He said, so immediately. And guess what? Therefore, as soon as the people heard the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the trigon, the bagpipe, and every kind of music, all the peoples and nations and languages fell down and worshiped the golden image and the king Nebuchadnezzar had set up. He said, man, look at here. They feared him. They feared him greatly. They feared him more than anything on earth. They feared him. They feared death. They feared being thrown in the furnace, in the fiery furnace. They feared being tried. They feared being burnt up. They feared being consumed by the fire. They feared. That's why they call on the other gods. They feared. They feared because they were losing things. They feared because they were losing family. They were losing friends. They were losing things. They were losing their mind. They were losing their thoughts. They were fearing. So therefore, they had to call on something else in order to make themselves feel like they're not losing anything. That's what happens. Because you're not going to fit in if you don't do it. You're going to be an oddball out of the whole thing if you don't do it. So therefore, you conform to everything that's happened. And many people did it. And you conform to it very quickly. When the pressure put on you, you will conform if you don't fear Yahuwah. Because there's no one better than those who fear Yahuwah, but you will conform. If you say you're a good manager and you are ma'or, gadol, ma'or, and you're gonna conform because of the pressure on you. Verse 8, therefore, at the time, certain Chaldeans came forth and maliciously accused the Yahudim. Right, so which one are you? Where are you? Because they're going to accuse you. The accuser has been cast down. What do you think Satan's going to do? Satan, all Shaitan, and his beings are going to always be there with Autolith and Akoros and Aktum and Adar and Aldi and Bakan. He's going to always be there with you. They all going to be worshiping together. Ashtoreth and Dagon and all of them going to be there. What you going to do? You're going to give in. They're all going to be there. Which Elohim do you serve and which Elohim you don't? Right? They can slay millions of people and have people crying down a trail. And guess what? And offer you an Elohim to worship and you worship it. Guess what? You know why? Because pressure is on you. They declared to King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. O king, he said, O king, have made a decree that every man and woman who hears the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the harp, and the bagpipe, and every kind of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. He said, you should worship it. And whosoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast in the burning fiery furnace. There are certain Yahudim, because every Yahudim, he said there's certain of them. Now, every one of them didn't obey, did not fear Yahuwah. There's just the ones that single you out that didn't. Because every Yahudim didn't. But there were some who did, though. But you know the ones who did are going to sell you out to the people who what? Why? Because they're going to have to sell you out. They didn't do it. Of course they're going to do it. But that's all a part of it too. Because everybody can't take the pressure. There are certain Yahudim whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? That's what they say. These men, O king, pay no attention to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in furious rage, isn't that the same thing we just read about? Isn't that what Asa did? To the Nabi, when he threw him in prison. The same Asa who threw away all the idols and the other gods. Even rebuked his own mother. But guess what? Then Nebuchadnezzar, furious and rage, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. So he brought these men before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, it is true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right, that you do not serve my Elohims or worship the golden image that I have set up. Is it true that what they accuse you of? He says, why is this important, right? So this is the book of Matthew. Actually, go to Matthew chapter 24. Matthew chapter 24 and verse 4. Matthew 24 and 4. Matthew 24 and 4. And Yahushua answered, see that no one leads you astray. For many will come in my name and say, I am Mashiach, and will lead many astray. Many fell down and worshiped the statue. Everybody was afraid. Everybody was afraid. But it was just certain Yahudim, not all the Yahudim. And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not ashamed, For this must take place, but the end is not yet. When do you think war is going to take place? During whirlwind season? Thunderstorm, whirlwind season? That makes no sense. No. And it says, but the end is not yet, for nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. And these are but the beginning of birth pains. Then they will deliver you up to tribulation, to be put to death. What do you think they're doing right here with Nebuchadnezzar? What do you think they're doing with the certain Yahudi? Not all of them now. You know, some of them ain't really full-fledged fear of Yahuwah type. And you will be hated by all nations for my name's sake. Why? Because you fear Yahuwah more than all of them. I fear Yahuwah for his name's sake. Notice he say name's sake. I do this. I defer my anger for my name's sake. To the Kadashim are sealed. The Ibad are sealed in their forehead. And many will fall away and betray one another. He say certain Yahudim didn't do it though. It's just certain of them, not all of them though. Now everybody not going to do it. But certain ones will. And many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another. Why? Because the ruach of hatred works together with Satan. That's why you're going to betray people. You're going to betray people because you're going to say going to give you money to sell them out like Delilah, and you're going to give them over to be put to death. Just certain of the Yahudim now, not all of them though. You're going to be like Judas. You got to do. People have to do these things. You're either going to be the persecuted or the persecutor. That's what good managers get. You got to understand when you're a manager, even when you have possessions, you got to always watch out for Satan. Shaitan coming for your stuff. He always looking at what you have. What can he take to break you, to make you worship and bow down? That's all it is. But you can't give in. And it says, and hate one another, and many false Nabiim will arise and lead many astray. When you hear it, and he said, bow down and worship the gold image, make sure you all do that. Because you know, we don't want to be thrown in the furnace of affliction, in the fiery furnace. And guess what? And because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. He said, it's going to go cold. That's why you need a winter season, so you can know what a cold heart is when you cold-hearted to somebody in your life. That's why you need you need to understand what it's like. You need to understand that. That's why you need snow and blizzards and it's freezing, -10. You need to figure out, see how -10 you've been with your love and your ahab toward Yahuwah and toward your neighbor and toward your household. But the one who endures unto the end will be saved. Why? Because you're going to have to endure to the end. Why? Because this is all important. Going back to Daniel chapter 3. Daniel. I'm almost finished. Daniel chapter 3. It's not even going to be that long. Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3 verse 16. Daniel chapter 3 verse 16. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, Elohim, it says, actually go up to verse 3 and 14. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my Elohim or worship the golden image that I have set up? Now, if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, the pipe, the lyre, the trigon, the harp, and the bagpipe, and every kind of music, to fall down and worship the image that I have made, well and good. He said, you ready to do it now? Being that I know you want to do it the first time, but guess what? It's getting ready to happen again. So, you ready to do it now? In my presence? So you won't be condemned to death and go in the fiery furnace? Because you know that's the first time you didn't do it. The second time, you know how it is. I want to see you do it. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast in the burning fiery furnace. You put to death. And who is the God whom will deliver you out of my hands. What God gonna deliver you out of my hands, out of my yard? And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our Elohim whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace to the Kadashim, to the Abad are sealed in their foreheads. So they said, we serve. And he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known, O king, that we will not serve the Elohims or worship the golden image that you have set up to your face. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury. Why? You know what happens after that? You got a demon the first time he did. When he filled with rage, he got a shadim on the inside. Then he got another demon when he got angry again. He got another spirit. He got all of them inside of him now. He said they're rage demons, shadim. But guess what? An expression of his face was changed. Why? Because that's what demon shadim do. They change your face, your panim. Your face changes. If you ever seen one before. Their grin can go from one side of their face all the way to the other side. Against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he ordered the furnace heated 7 times more than it usually was heated. 7 times, right? And he ordered some of the mighty men of the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their cloaks, their tunics, their hats, and their other garments, and they were thrown into the burning furnace, because the king's orders was urgent, and the furnace overheated, and the flame of fire killed those men who took Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound in the fiery furnace. He said they fell down in the fire. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose in haste, and he declared to his counselors, did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire? Why? You cast 3 men in there. They answered and said to the king, true, O king, he answered and said, but I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. Why is this bush not burned? Why is it not consumed? Why are they not consumed, and why are the bush not burned? Why? And when Yahuwah turned aside, when Yahuwah saw that they turned aside to see it, because sometimes you got to be put in this situation so other people can turn aside to see what's going on in your life. They need to see that, hey man, I thought it was just you down there, but then I saw 3 people, now it's 4 people down there unbound. When they turned aside to see why these bush was not burning, or you mean why the 3 men was not burnt up yet, they saw, he answered and said, but I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods. Right? Why? Because they worship other gods. So they had other names for their gods that they served. So when they saw them, they said, man, this must be one of the gods. Right? Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fiery furnace, and he declared. So he literally turned aside, just like Meshach did. He said, why are you not consumed like the burning fiery? Why are you not consumed? Why are you not burnt up? And what did he say? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High Elohim, come out and come here. He ended up calling on Yahuwah himself. Just by them being in the situation, and they were not consumed, and they were not destroyed and burnt up. They wasn't a call. The fire didn't a call them. But he told Meshach, he said, take your shoes off your feet, for this is Kudash ground. So you see these men in the middle of a fiery furnace, and for some reason the bush was not consumed. or they weren't consumed. And guess what happened? He said, man, the place where they were standing was the very Kudash ground that doesn't allow a burning bush to be consumed. And they had to do something too. But all these are a part of it. And guess what he said? Come out and come here. Then the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps and the prefects and the governors and the kings and the counselors gathered together and saw that the fire had not any power over the bodies of those men. He said, why is the bush and not consumed? Why is the bush not consumed? Why can't I understand why the bush is not consumed? Because you're not humble. You're not an Adar, and you haven't hit the ground and covered your head. You haven't bowed, and you have not sealed in your forehead. Because the Yahudim sellouts ain't gonna know. Who gonna hate you and betray you ain't gonna know. He said, take your shoes off your feet, for the place where you stand is Kudash ground. And guess what? It says the hair of their heads was not singed, their cloaks were not harmed, and no smell of fire had come upon them. He said, man, ain't nothing on you. Man, you don't even smell like it. You ain't even come out the club yet. You know how people go to the club and they come out smelling like that? He said, how do you know that? Because you ever smell people who come from the club? He said, they be smoking and everything. They come, man, you smell like you've been smoking, but they ain't have no smoke on them. And he says, and no smell of fire came upon them. And Nebuchadnezzar answered, Barak be the Elohim. So how you think people going to believe on Yahuwah's name? This is why he said, till the servants are sealed in their forehead. He was obedient unto death, even to the death of the cross. Because when Yahusha cried out on the last cry, and he gave it the Ruach, what did the man say? What did the person say, the centurion? He said, truly, this was the son of Yahuwah. That's the only way that people going to know. What's the point of you not going through any fire, any trials, and nobody ain't going to know? You think people don't know? You get ready to lose everything. You telling me nobody know about it? He said, the only reason I put you in that situation is because for my name's sake, I defer my anger. Because I could easily burn you up, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. For my name's sake, I defer my anger so that other people can see that I am the one who delivered you. That's the only reason he's doing it. I want them to see. I want them to turn aside and see this great miracle. And guess what? And Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, Barak be the Elohim of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his Malachi and delivered his servants who trusted in him. Huh? You know what Malachi? And he said, and Meshach was just being a servant. Then the Malach of Yahuwah appeared to him. And the bush was not consumed. And Nebuchadnezzar, he recognized a Malach of Yahuwah came to you and helped you because you trusted in Yahuwah Elohim and not in his God. And not in his Elohim. You didn't call on his God and his Elohim. You know, the one that they worship. And set aside the king's commandment. That's what Yahuwah does. He set you'll set your commandment aside. Because Yahuwah's commandment greater than their commandment, his commandment. Thou shalt have no other Elohims before me. You telling me the first commandment is, he'll put you in a situation just with the first commandment? He said, man, I want to understand all mysteries and all knowledge and be able to speak the language of the Malachi. I want to understand all things. He said, nah, how about just the first commandment? Let's see if you can do that. Because people are going to sell you out. They're going to deliver you out. They're going to betray you and they're going to hate you just because of the first commandment. He said, you do well if you just keep the first commandment. And guess what? And set aside the king's commandment and yielded up their bodies rather than to serve and worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree: any people, nations, or language that speaks anything against the Elohim of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their houses laid in ruins. Has that happened yet? You know why it hasn't happened yet? Because the servants of Hezebad are not sealed in their foreheads yet. They have not been gone through the fire yet. That's the only reason this hasn't happened today. Because you ain't been sealed in your forehead yet. How many laws you got passed saying that right now? What decree, what law you got? And their houses lay ruins, for there is no other Elohim who is able to rescue in this way. Who gonna save you from the burning fire? He said, for my name's sake, I defer my anger right now. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the province of Babylon. Then they got promotion. He said, how you gonna get promotion? I ain't never got. How you gonna get in front of these type of great, he said, great people? You gotta go through things like this. But it says, all right, this is the book of Malachi chapter 3, 2 through 6. But who can endure the day of his coming? Who gonna do it? And who can stand when he appears? What must y'all do when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap. And he's like, man, why is the bush not consumed? He will sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Louis and refine them like gold and silver, and they will bring offerings of righteousness to Yahuwah. He says, why do they got to be purified? Yashab, right? Yashab, Seraph, right? Why? Because that's all a part. A refiner. He will sit as a refiner. Tahar or Teher, Kasef, as silver, is Wu Taher, purified. Ath Bini Louis. Why? Because that's all a part of it. He said, I'm going to purify the sons of Louis. Like what? Like zakah, like purifying a thing. Zahab, right? Then it says, Zahab Wu Kasaf. He said, I'm going to purify just like silver, or refine like gold, or Zahab and silver. Zahab, gold, and silver. It says, Wu, yeah, and it says, La Yahuwah Geshit. And it says, Minka Sadaka, right? Offerings unto Yahuwah of righteousness. Righteousness to Yahuwah. But he said what? I'm going to Taher or Tahar, refine. I'm going to refine them. How are you going to do that? To the Abad, the servants of the Elohim are sealed in their foreheads. How are you going to do that? He's going to purify us with the word. You know how we say it? His word like fire. Yirmiyahu 23, right? You know how we say it. Yirmiyahu chapter 23. I ain't Ishlapid. He's going to do it with the word. The word is going to purify us. Exactly. Your obedience to the word when you get in a situation like that is what's going to purify you. When you get in a situation where you at the point where you're getting ready to worship another God, that's when you're going to get purified. You're not going to get purified. The word is, I hear the word every week. You know how to say it. They heard the word every week too. Hananiah, Azariah, Hananiah, they heard the word every week too, right? Shabbat Shalom, right? Guess what? But they real refinement, they didn't get really no tested and the refining in the fire until they got put, and they still the servants are sealed in their forehead until they get to the point where they get ready to worship another God, and they got to make a choice between life and death. That's how you're going to get purified. Think about your offering after that. Guess what? Verse 4. Then the offering of Yehuda and Jerusalem will be pleasing to Yahuwah. What pleased Yahuwah? How can we please Yahuwah? We are rebels from the beginning. The only way we please Yahuwah is for his name's sake. He defers his anger so other people can see him through the things that he takes you through, so they can get back to him. What actual thing can we offer to Yahuwah that can be something that can be pleasing to him? Right? This is the book of the prayer of Azariah. The prayer of Azariah, Apocrypha. It's in the Apocrypha. Prayer of Azariah. Prayer of Azariah, chapter 1. Prayer of Azariah, chapter 1. And they walked in the midst of the fire, praising Elohim and baraking Yahuwah. Then the offering of Yahuwah will be pleasing to Yahuwah. When you get in that situation, they will praise him in the fire. That's when Yahuwah, the offering of Yahuwah, is pleasing. Because you're willing to do that in the midst of all that. I ain't talking about when things going good. And baraking Yahuwah. Then Azariah stood up and prayed on this manner, and opening his mouth in the midst of the fire, and said, Barak are you, thou, O Yahuwah of our fathers, thy name is worthy to be praised and kabod forever and ever. Kabod, glorify evermore. For thou art righteous, and in all things that thou hast done to us, yea, true are all thy works, thy ways are right, and all thy judgments are true. And in all things thou hast brought upon us, and upon the Kudash city, and our fathers, even Jerusalem, thou hast executed true judgment. For according to truth and judgment didst thou bring all these things upon us because of our sins. I told you. If you were already purified, how are you going to get purified again? You got to go through the refiner's fire. You got to get it 7 times. You have to go through the bar 7 times, right? Why? Because it's a part of it, right? So this book of Proverbs 6:16. Look at Proverbs 16. I think it's 16. I'll study Proverbs. Psalms, go to Tahalim 12, Psalms 12, and Psalms 12 and 5. Tahalim 12 and 5. Psalms 12 and 5. Psalms 12 and 5. 12 and 6. The words of Yahuwah are pure words, like silver refined in the furnace of the ground, right? Like silver. Purified 7 times. That's why he turned it up 7 times. Yahuwah, you, O Yahuwah, will keep them. You will guard us from generation forever. On every side the wicked prowl, as vileness is exalted among the children of Adar. Why? Because that's the whole point. He says, so why is that? Because didn't they exalt the statue? They erected it and exalted it. But guess what? He had to refine them in the furnace of affliction. That's the only reason. Verse 8. Wherefore, all that thou hast brought upon, going to prayer of Azariah, chapter 1, and verse 8. Wherefore, all that thou hast brought upon us, and everything that thou hast done to us, thou hast done in true judgment. And thou didst deliver us from the hand of the lawless enemies, most hateful forsakers of Elohim. Isn't that what Yahushua said? He said, man, many going to hate one another and betray one another. You're going to be delivered up the tribulation. Isn't that what he said? They forsakers of Elohim. Wow, what do you mean forsake? They fell away from him. And an unjust king and the most wicked in all the world. Everybody forsook Yahuwah, right? And now we cannot open our mouth. We are become a shame and a reproach to thy servants and to them that worship thee. Yet deliver us up wholly for thy name's sake. Neither disannul thou thy covenant. Why? There's certain Yahudim. Notice the ones who didn't worship the other god, Elohim, the ones who got promoted. Right? But the ones who sell them out, it is a certain Yahudim. Right? And cause not thy mercy to depart from us. For thy beloved, it's verse 12, for thy beloved Abraham's sake, for thy servant Yitzhak's sake, and for the Kudash Yasharal's sake. You know what he told Mashah? I am the Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Yitzhak, and the Elohim of Yaakov. To whom thou hast spoken and promised that thou wouldest multiply their seed as the stars of Shamayim and as the sand that lieth on the seashore. For we, O Yahuwah, are become less than any nation, and been kept under this day in all the world because of our sins. Neither is there at any time prince or nabi or leader or burnt offering, Then the offering of Louis will be what? Pleasing to Yahuwah. Neither what? Like as in burnt offerings or rams or bullocks, as in 10,000 fat. That's the goal. For we, O Yahuwah, are become less than any nation, to be kept under this day in all the world because of our sins. Neither is there at this time prince, or nabi, or leader, or burnt offering, or sacrifice, or oblation, or incense, or place to sacrifice before thee, and to find mercy. Nevertheless, in a contrite heart and a humble ruach, let us be accepted. You know what we just read in Philippians? He, being in the form of Elohim, didn't count himself equality to be grasped, but took on the form of an Adar, and humbled himself, even to the point of death. To the Kadashim are sealed, the Adar are sealed in their forehead. Like as in a burnt offering or rams or bullocks, and like 10,000 fats, so let our sacrifice be in thy sight. He says, like as a burnt offering and rams and bullocks and like 10,000 fat lambs. How many can you do that? How long is it gonna take you to do that? Think about it. I'm gonna offer all these animals up, and then guess what? By the time I'm finished, the day gonna be over with. Remember, they're in a situation where they need him now. The only way you're gonna get a deliverance now. Nevertheless, in a contrite heart and a humble ruach, let us be accepted. Like as in a burnt offering, a ram or bullocks, like as 10,000 lambs, so let our sacrifice be in thy sight this day. And grant that we may wholly go after thee, for they shall not be confounded that put their trust in thee. And now we follow thee with all thy heart. We fear thee, because there's no one greater. And seek thy face. What you seeking now? He said, ain't no way in the world. How many animals they can seek after offer up? Why do you think they said Yahushua's one sacrifice, he offered once and for all? That one sacrifice, behold the Lamb of Elohim who take away the sin of the world. He had to be humble and contrite, just like this man is in the fiery furnace, in order for him to be accepted. Yahushua won't walk around saying, I'm going to offer up a whole bunch of animals for him to be accepted by Yahuwah. What? You said, I'm going to offer up 10,000 rams, 6,000 goats, and 10,000 lambs, right? You think that's what he was going to do? The man was taken by Pilate and all the elders of Yasharal and all of them, and it was killed that night. He ain't had time for that. He had to come in a humble and contrite heart. And he fulfilled all sacrifices in one offering. That's the same thing this person is doing here. In one offering. And now we follow thee with all our heart. And we fear thee and seek thy face. Why do you think Qahalath was falling back? How far he was falling back when Yahushua was getting crucified? Why do you think he ain't following him all the way through? Because he wasn't humble. And he wasn't willing to humble himself to the point of death. That's the only reason he ain't do it. Till the servants are sealed in their forehead. Adar. Then they got to the point where they can do it. Verse 19, put us not to shame, but deal with us after thy loving kindness and according to thy multitude of mercy. Deliver us also according to thy marvelous works, and give kabod to thy name, not to our name. Let no one account himself more significant than the other. O Yahuwah, let all of them that do thy servants hurt be ashamed. And let them be confounded in their power and might, and let their strength be broken. What happens? And it says, and let them know that thou art Elohim, the only Elohim, and the glory and glorious over the whole world. And the king's servant that put them in ceased not to make the oven hot with rosin, pitch, and tow, and small wood, so that the flame streamed forth above the furnace 49 cubits. 49 cubits, man. And it passed through the burnt those Chaldeans found about the furnace. But the Malach of Yahuwah came down in the oven together with Azarias and his fellows, and smote the flame of fire out of the oven, and made a mist of the furnace. And it says, and made the mist of the furnace as if it had been the moist whistling wind, so that the fire touched them not at all, neither hurt nor troubled them. Then the three, as out of one mouth, praised and kabod and barak Elohim in the furnace. Why? Going back to Malachi chapter 3, verse 4. Then the offering of Yehuda and Jerusalem will be pleasing to Yahuwah, as in the days of old and in the former years. How is that going to happen? You have to go through that situation. Verse 5, then I will draw near to you for judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, against the adulterers, and against those who swear falsely, and against those who oppress the hired workers of his wages, the widows, the fatherless, against those who thrust aside the sojourner, and who do not fear me, says Yahuwah of hosts, because there is no one better than those who fear Yahuwah. But you gotta be tested in that situation. You gotta be taken through that type of fire in order for you to get to the point where you will no longer do these things. You think an adulteress is gonna stop committing? An adulteress? What do you think an adulteress does? What do you think a person who swears falsely, who say I worship Yahuwah, but then they worship another god? What do you think a person who will oppress a hired worker and don't give him their wages? That's what people do today in the world. The evil men in the world do that today. Or the widow and the fatherless, right? You know, the ones who ain't got no father figure, no male figure. Against those who thrust aside the sojourner, somebody who ain't just a stranger. You say, you don't even fear me. But yet you declare yourself that you're better than all those things in 2nd Enoch. For I, Yahuwah, do not change. So, he's a kabodi not given to another. He gave it to Yasharal. He taken them through the furnace of affliction to purify you, that your offering can be great, so you no longer do the sins that they confessed in the fiery furnace. They confessed it in the fiery furnace that what they did. Then he said, this is the reason why we're in this situation, in our sin, because of all the things that we didn't fear you, but now we fear you. And he sent a Malachi, and to do what? To rescue them. For I, Yahuwah, do not change. Therefore, you, O children of Jacob, are not consumed. That's the only reason that Malachi came in and sent a mist in the midst of that fire and did not consume them. That's the only reason, for his name's sake, not for you. That's the only reason he got you in the situation, or in the situation in your life where you feel like you can't get delivered from. The only reason he doing it, because he wants you to come in a humble and contrite heart, and he wants you to confess your sins and the reason why you in that situation. And then guess what? So your offer can be pleasing to Yahuwah again, and that you will no longer transgress the commandments when you treat each other, love thy neighbor as you love yourself. But are you going to worship another God? You're losing everything. You're not making anything. You're going to mess it up. Right? The only reason all these things happen is because of all the sins that one has done when it comes to loving your neighbor as you love yourself. That's all it is. Has nothing to do with nothing else. Right? Because you got to look on the interests of others and not yourself. Those are all things that we read in verse 5 right here, is all the interests of others that people took advantage of. the interests of others, and not just yourself. Because Yahushua, he'll humble himself even to the point of death. And until one actually comes to that knowledge, then you understand that, right? Right. So it says, he will sit as a refiner. So that verse 3 says, that word for refiner is taher. 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 Right, we ain't talking about tether, but that's what they do. That's what they do. But it says taher. It means to be clean. He will sit to clean you up, to purify you, to be cleansed, to be pronounced clean. That's the only reason he was doing all that stuff in the fiery furnace. He was cleaning them up to the point where they can pray, have an offering that's pleasing to Yahuwah. That's the only reason he's doing it. How are the sons of Louis going to get purified? Right? How the sons of Louis going to get purified? That word for Louis, the word for Levi is Louis. It means joined to. Right? You add, and you mean attached. How is he going to get Louis to be attached back to him again? He got to take him through the fiery furnace so they stop transgressing all the commandments. Because that's all they've been doing. They transgress the commandments and seeking out their own interests, seeking out their own interests and not the interests of others. And they did not keep none of them. Matter of fact, look what their name equals to. Lamed equals to 30, Wu equals to 6, Yod equals to 10. And equals to 46, equals to 10. Because they were transgressing the 10 commandments. Equals to 10 commandments. That's what Louis equal to. And making us the Yod, open right hand. They had that right hand of falsehood. That's what they offered out, the Yod. Right? They had the right hand of falsehood. Right? That's why they need to be purified. Because their right hand is full of falsehood. Right? Go in the book of Psalms, Tahalim. This is the book of. That's not it. Yeah, I did that one. Yeah, this is the book of Proverbs. Sorry, Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 5. Proverbs 13 and 5. Proverbs 13:5. The righteous hates falsehood, but the wicked brings shame and disgrace. Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless. That's why their way wasn't blameless. That's the same reason why he said, then he's going to bring a pure offering. And he said they're going to be pure offering of righteousness, right? But it says, but the wicked brings shame and disgrace. Righteousness guards him whose way is blameless, but sin overthrows the wicked. One pretends to be rich, yet has nothing. Yet one pretends to be poor, yet has great wealth. Right? We're going back. But it's right, you add up the word Louis, it means joined to. You add Lamed, let's start with the Lamed, because you know that's what this is, the 12th month. This is the 12th month. Lamed, Wu, and Yod. These are 46. We use the 10. Because this is the 12th month. This is the 12th month. He said they had to be refined through the furnace of affliction. That's the only way they're going to. It says, and he will sit as a refiner of silver, purifier of silver, and he will purify the sons of Louis. Because they gotta go through situations to where they can get purified. Matter of fact, to the Adar sealed in their forehead. Right? And it says, and refine them like gold and silver. He said, why do you gotta refine them like gold and silver? And they will bring offerings of righteousness to Yahuwah. Why they gotta be refined like gold and silver? Right? Right, so this is the book of Matthew Yahu, chapter 27 and verse 7. Matthew Yahu, chapter 27, verse 1. 27 and 1. And when the morning came, all the chief priests and the elders and the people took counsel against Yahushua to put him to death. Why? They took counsel. That's the same thing they did Dawid. Right? They all took counsel. And they bound him and led him away and delivered him over to Pilate, the governor. That's the same thing they did to the 3 Abri men. They delivered him over to Nebuchadnezzar. Because that's what happens when you get to sell out Yahudim, who certain Yahudim won't do it, though. For some reason, these certain Yahudim don't give respect to the Levitical priest of Louis, though. I don't understand it. Why won't they give respect to Louis? You were there with that Nazarene guy. You know, that Nazarene that was causing all that trouble. You with that Nazar. You with that guy. Then when Judas, his betrayer, because he said many going to hate one another and betray one another and deliver you up to tribulation. Isn't that what they did to Yahushua? Isn't that what Yehuda did to Yahushua? They delivered him up to tribulation. But he humbled himself even to the point of death. And when Yehuda, his betrayer, saw that Yahushua was condemned, he changed his mind, right? He started to change his mind. You know what Nebuchadnezzar did? After he saw they didn't die, he like, man, uh-oh. Nebuchadnezzar threw him in there. He was enraged. Remember, he was in rage and anger too. He's like, man, look at here. They ain't die. I'm in trouble. Did Yahuwah not get him back later on? Didn't Yahuwah get Nebuchadnezzar back? You know how we be thinking we be doing stuff to people? And amazingly, Nebuchadnezzar got repaid back. Didn't he not get repaid back for what he did? So you be like, I'm going to be a betrayer, and I'm going to be enraged and anger and throw people in the fiery furnace and tribulation and betray and hate with somebody. And you thinking, oh, you think you respect the persons? Yahuwah doesn't care. And he changed his mind and brought back the 30 pieces of silver, right? That's why he said he's going to be refined like silver, because, you know, Louis loved that silver, though. And the chief priests and the elders saying, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. He's like, they love that silver, boy. He say, matter of fact, being that you love gold and silver so much, he said, I'm going to refine you just like that gold and silver is made. And I have been betraying innocent blood. They said, what is that to us? See it to yourself. Since when does Louis reject silver and gold? And throwing down the pieces of silver, right, in the temple, he departed and he went and hanged himself, right? He hung himself. But the chief priest, taking the pieces of silver, said, it is not lawful to put them in the treasury, since it is blood money. He said, even though they gave him the money, they still say it's blood money, but they still pay for it. You know, I'm going to refine you just like silver. You know that silver that you gave Judas, but then he gave it back and you say it's blood money, but it's your money. I'm going to refine you like silver. Matter of fact, I'm going to turn it up 7 times. And it is not lawful to put it in the treasury since it is blood money. So they took the council and brought with them the potter's field as a burial place for strangers. Therefore, the field has been called the field of blood to this day. Now you see right in the book of Malachi, it talks about who turned aside the strangers. He said, what y'all doing to the strangers? They got a whole field that they bury strangers at. And it's silver, and they said, you know what, that same silver, that blood money, we got a whole place, you know, where we got a place where we bury strangers at. That's where we're gonna put that silver. Huh? And you be like, man, why Malachi say they offering? Then Yahuwah they offering gonna be pure, and they gonna offer prayer, and gonna be accepted. This stuff was not accepted. What they were doing, Yahushua was accepted, but these people were not. Therefore, the field has been called the field of blood to this day. It's still there, right? Then was a field that was spoken by the Nabi Yirmiyahu. They took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him on whom the price has been set by some of the sons of Yasharal. And they gave them for the potter's field as Yahuwah directed me, right? But that's all a part of it. He says, so why is this important? Right, this is the book of Revelation. Go back to Revelation chapter 7. Revelation chapter 7 and verse 3. Saying, 7 and 3, saying, do not harm the earth at us or the sea until they have sealed this abad of our Elohim in their foreheads. And I heard the number of the sealed were 144,000, sealed from every tribe of the sons of Yasharal, because I am Yahuwah, I change not. Why he sealed in your forehead for? Why he sealing your forehead? Why is this bush not burned? And he bowed his head to the ground. He said, the place where you stand on is Kudash ground. See, the servants are Abad, or sealed in their forehead with humility. So they hit the ground. Verse, it says, 12,000 from the tribe of Yehuda. Huh? That's the first tribe. Because that's the people that's supposed to get it first, right? 12,000 from the tribe of Rauban, that's my son. Amazingly got praise first. Praise. Then he has Rauban, a son. Then they got God, the tribe of God, 12,000, a troop. The tribe of Asher, 12,000 from the tribe of Asher. 12,000 from the tribe of Naphtali. 12,000 from the tribe of Manasseh. 12,000 from the tribe of Shamuan. 12,000 from the tribe of Louis. So you think Louis was the only one that needed to be purified? Louis was the only one that needed to be refined as silver is refined. You think they're the only one that needed to be sealed in their forehead? No. All 12 of them had to be sealed in their forehead. He said, Louis ain't the only one. And amazingly, 12,000 from the tribe of Yitzhakar, 12,000 from the tribe of Zabulun, 12,000 from the tribe of Yusuf, and 12,000 from the tribe of Benjamin. Because they all had to be sealed in their forehead. They all had to. Right, so this is the book of Matthew chapter 13, 36 through 43. Matthew chapter 13, 36 through 43. Matthew chapter 13, 36 through 43. Then he left the crowds and went into the house. And his disciples came to him, saying, explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. And he answered, the one who sows the good seed is the son of Adam. The field is the world, and the good seed is the sons of the kingdom. Right? You mean the good seed. The weeds are the sons of the evil one. The ones who forsake Yahuwah. He said, you the sons of the evil one. The ones who worship the statue. And the enemy who sold them is Shaitan. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the Malachim. Didn't the Malachim come and reap the three Avery, Hananiah, Azariah, right? And Hananiah out of the fire furnace? Didn't the Malachim appear to them in the bush? Didn't the Malachim appear to Mashah? Then he said, take your shoes off your feet. This Kudash ground. He hit the ground and he bowed his head. And he covered his face. The reapers are the Malachim. Just as the weeds are gathered and burned in the fire, wouldn't the three Avery men burn in the fire? So will it be at the end of the age. So what do you think he was doing? He was showing you the difference between the good seed and the evil seed. Because they sowed the seed, they made a decree, but certain of them didn't do it. Certain of them would not transgress the 10 Commandments. But everybody didn't, though. So will it be at the end of the age. The son of Adam will send his Malachim. Loosen up the four winds at the four corners of their house. He said with a loud voice to the Malachim, do not hurt the sea, the yam, the sea, or anything in the earth. Why? The trees. Why? Until the servants, Abad, are sealed in their forehead. The son of Adam will send his Malachim, and they will gather out of his kingdom all that causes sin and all the lawbreakers. He said, what? We just read all the things that they were transgressing. All the things you're supposed to do with love your neighbor. They were oppressing the stranger, the fatherless, the widows, right? They were offering up things they weren't supposed to be doing. They were Malachi already said what they were doing. It was, of course, there's a lot more than what they were doing, but that's paraphrasing all the things that they were doing. He's gonna do what? He's gonna get all that causes sin and all the lawbreakers and throw them in a fiery furnace. Isn't that what he did? But they were lawbreakers of Nebuchadnezzar's law, and he was thrown in the fiery furnace. But when Yahuwah come back, he said, remember how they got thrown in the fire? You know that he had sent his powerful army, and he had his soldiers come grab Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Hananiah, Azariah, Hananiah, right? And threw him in the fire front. You know how they got his big soldiers? I got some too. He said, I got some strong ones too. And I'm going to send them after you, and I'm going to throw you in the fiery furnace. That's what he said. I'm going to do the same thing he did. But I'm the Malak of Malakim. I'm the King of kings and the Master of masters. And at the name of Yahushua, every knee should bow. And every tongue should confess that Yahushua is master to the Kabod of Yahuwah himself. And guess what? And gather out of his kingdom all that cause sin and the lawbreakers. What do you think? He's his kingdom. This is my kingdom. This ain't yours. And throw them into the fiery furnace. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of the teeth. You know why? Because he ain't going to send no Malachi to send no mist around you to rescue you out of it. You know how to say, please, Yahuwah, we sinned and we transgressed. You can't say that when you get in this furnace. You can say that now, before that time comes. But eventually, that's going to come eventually, and that's going to be the people who don't do it. Now. It ain't gonna be like, let me turn aside and see why it's not burning you. It's not gonna be like that. They're gonna be burning you. It's gonna be burning you. Just like how we looked at, they turned aside to see why the bush is not consumed. Why is it not consuming? Why is the bush not consumed? Why is it a call? Why is the fire not burning you up? Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Allah Father. Right? That's how you know. Then the offering going to be what? The offering going to be clean. It's going to be true. They're going to have a pure offering after that. Yehuda and Jerusalem going to offer, and it's going to be accepted again. Then the righteous will shine like the sun, because you know, a man in the ordering of his house in the fear of Yahuwah, even as a woman in the ordering of her house in the fear of Yahuwah, is like the sun rising on a cloudless day. Because you're good managers, not only of yourself, of your household, of your life, and of your mind, but also you fear Yahuwah, and you're no one greater. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in their kingdom of their Father. He that has ears, let him hear. Because you know, they close their ears. That they would not hear in the book of Yeshayahu. They closed their ears. He said, I don't want to hear that. But that's the whole point. That's the whole point. This is Yochanan chapter 15, John chapter 15, 1 through 6. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Why? Anything Yahuwah prunes off of you, it's just like when things fall off of you in your life. When anything he prunes off of you and corrects you on, those are the things you need to throw in the fire. That should be your wood that you use on Shabbat. You know how it says they couldn't offer any fire on the Shabbat. They couldn't light any fire. Well, your fire need to be your things that Yahuwah cuts off of you, that he prunes, that he can throw into the fire. Because he called you out of darkness into this marvelous light. And the only way you can be in the marvelous light, you got to take the things that he pruned off of you and throw it in the fire. And light your fire. Because you know it's going to give you the light. Your sin. Your sin is what's going to give you the light. How you think he's going to get light when he gets in his Malachi to throw him in the fiery furnace? Those who are the lawbreakers. He said, I'm going to throw them in the fire and give me light. So therefore, you need to throw your things that he prunes off of you and throw it in your fire so you can have light. Because he called you out of darkness into this marvelous light. And you need to throw that in the fire that you may have light on the Shabbat. And you may offer a pure offering. Because that pure offering is the things he prunes off of you that you've thrown in the fire. Already you are clean because of the bar that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. How did he clean you? Tahor. He purified you not with silver. He says that the bar of Yahuwah is like silver tried in front of the earth, purified 7 times. Why do you think the Shabbat he does this? Now you are clean, because that's what it means, to be clean. Already you are clean because of the bar I'm speaking to you. Abide in me, and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abide in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. You can't even bear fruit to even for him to prune anything off of you so you can have a fire. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whosoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. He said, you can't do nothing if you don't fear me. You can't do nothing if you can't pray to me, or palal to me, or tahila, tafila to me. You can't do nothing. Matter of fact, you can't even offer a pure offering without me. Matter of fact, you ain't got no light. You can't even light a fire. Matter of fact, you can't get rescued by no malaki without Yahuwah. If you don't fear me, you can't. That's why malaki are true. Right? If anyone does not abide in me, what? He is thrown away like a branch and withers. You ever seen a branch? He say, you ever seen a branch get detached from something and it just start to wither? He said, you just like a branch that withers. Oh, you mean the branch starts to get what? Rot. The branch starts to rot. It starts to get prepared to be thrown in the fire. Because that's what our bodies are. Though our outward man perish, the inward man is renewed day by day. He's like, if anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers. And the branches are gathered. Right? He's going to send his malaki to gather in the lawbreakers and the lawless and throw them into the fire and burn. He said, you ain't going to be like, why is this bush not burning? Why is this log not burning? Why is it not a call? Why is it not being consumed? Oh, it's going to be consumed. It's going to be burned. How you going to eat it? You trying to get solar panels with that? Well, back in the day, you didn't have no solar panels and all that. Right? So you had to get some wood. Some things had to fall down from a tree, and you had to get some wood, and you had to burn, and you had to cook. You weren't gonna get no type of food, no heat, no nothing without it. You gonna need fire. But that's all a part of it. Right, this is 2 Samuel, Shemuel, chapter 23, 1-7. Now these are the last words of Dawid, the oracle of Dawood, the son of Yeshai, the oracle of the man who was raised on high and anointed, the Elohim of Yaakov, the sweet psalmist of Yasharal. The Ruach of Yahuwah speaks by me. His word is on my tongue. The Elohim of Yasharal has spoken. The Rock of Yasharal has said to me, when one rules justly over men, ruling in the fear of Elohim, because there's no one greater, he dawns on them like the morning light. And then we read Gadol Ma'or, the Shemash rule by day, Shemesh rule by day, the Yark, the rule by night, and the Yukukah. Like the sun shining forth on a cloudless morning. He said, you just like that. Just like the sun, the Shemash, right, on a cloudless morning. Like rain that makes grass sprout from the earth. Right? Verse 5, for does not my house stand so with Elohim? He said, my house, my Ba'id stand with Elohim. For he has made with me an everlasting covenant, ordered in all things and secure. For will he not cause to prosper all my help and my desire? Right? Because if the Gadol Ma'or shines, and guess who shines at night? The greater light, the lesser light, the rule of the night. For will he not cause to prosper all my help and my desire, if both fear you, Elohim Yahuwah? But worthless men and women are like thorns that are thrown away. He just said he's gonna do all the lawbreakers and the lawless. He's gonna throw in what? In the furnace, and it's gonna be consumed. A call. And ain't gonna be no Malaki coming saying, hey, praying to Yahuwah, and he gonna send a mist around you. It's not gonna happen. Ain't gonna be no take your shoes off your feet and try to figure it out. Why is this bush not consumed? For they cannot be taken with the hand. He said, man, what you taking? He said, taken with the what? What do you mean? With the yard. That's why Louis equals the 10, because they were offering up their right hand, their yard, their hand. And it was a right hand of falsehood, because they were transgressing all those commandments that you was reading about in Malachi. They were transgressing. They were impure right hands that they get extended to people. They can't be taken with their hands. Guess what? But the man who touches them arms himself with iron. He's like, man, what do you think the Malachi gonna do when they come back here? When they come back and grab them, and in the shaft of a spear, and they are utterly consumed with fire, they're gonna be thrown in a burning fiery furnace. That's why he said they take it with their hand. He said, but when the Malachi come, they gonna come with iron. They gonna arm themselves just like soldiers do, and they gonna throw them people in the fiery furnace. And they are utterly consumed with fire. He said, Mashah, turn aside. Mashah, when Yahuwah saw that Mashah turned aside to see why the bush wasn't consumed, he spoke to him and said, take your shoes off your feet, for this is Kudash ground. And Mashah bowed his face to the ground and hid his face. Why? He said, have mercy on me, a sinner. That's what Azariah did in the fiery furnace. Have mercy on us, a sinner. For we sinners. That's how you gonna get out. People say, how did Sophan y'all get out of Sheol? And we say, why I keep using that? Because that man got out of Sheol. He said, you prevailed. And you got the victory. Guess what? You prevail, you come out of Sheol. What do you think the fiery furnace represents? What do you think that burning represents? The hell that you in, the Sheol that you in, right? That's what it represents, right? Right, that word for shining is Zarak. It means to rise, to come forth. They say he dawns like on them like the sun shining. It's Zarak. To rise, to break out, to shine, to irradiate. To rise as the sun. Isn't that what he said they're going to be? Then the righteous is going to shine like the sun. After he get all the lawbreakers and throw them in the furnace of the furnace. But that's the only way he's going to do it. Why do you think he has to do that? Why do you think he cast 12 tribes of Yashar out of Jerusalem? Why? Because he had to take them through the fire. He said all the things that one has gone through, all the things they had to go through to get to this point in 2026 AD it's all going through the fire. It's to purify you so you can get a pure offering. This is the whole reason for it. People say, well, so why? I am Yahuwah, I changed not. Yahushua Mashiach died, that you can be purified. That's the whole point. This Talim, Psalms 122, 1 through 6. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of Yahuwah. Our feet have been standing within your gates, Jerusalem. Jerusalem built as a city that is bound firmly together, to which the tribes go up, the tribes of Yahuwah, as was decreed for Yasharal, to give thanks to the name of Yahuwah. Their thrones for judgment were set, the thrones of the house of Dawid. Pray for shalom, peace for Jerusalem. May they be secure who love you. Wow. He said, may they be secure who love you. Shalom, shalom, Yerushalom, shalom, shalom, habayit. Right? Verse 7 says, shalom be within your walls and security within your towers. For my brothers and my companions' sake, I say shalom within you. Why? Because that's the whole point. How you gonna get peace? When you do all the things, he said, there's no peace, shalom to the wicked. How you gonna get shalom? For the sake of the house of Yahuwah, our Elohim, I will seek your good. This is Nazarene Acts of the Shalakim, but still get power over demons. You see how it's important to acknowledgement of Yahuwah and the observance of divine obedience, which not only protects those who believe from assaults of demons, but also gives them command over those who rule over others. And therefore it's necessary for you who are the growing nations to betake yourselves to Yahuwah and keep yourself from all uncleanness that the demons may be expelled and Yahuwah may be dwell in you. For Yahuwah is my shepherd. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for Yahuwah is with me. And at the same time, by prayers, commit yourselves to Yahuwah and calling his aid against the impudent demons. For whatsoever you ask, believing you will receive. That's what Azariah did in the fiery furnace. That's what he did. He believed it, and he received it. But even in proportion as the demons, proportion as they depart from him, but even as the demons themselves, at proportion they see Amunah, faith, grow in man, in that proportion they depart from him. What do you think he was doing in the fiery furnace? Why do you think the fire didn't touch him? Why do you think he prayed to Yahuwah? Why do you think that he delivered him from it? Guess what it says? Residing only in the part in which remains infidelity still remains. He said they weren't burned in no part of their body. You think about it, they had some infidelity in in the fiery furnace. Put that fire to cook their whole right hand. You'd be like, man, my hand got burned, but everything else didn't get burned. Think about that. Residing only in the part where infidelity still remains. But for those who believe with full Amunah, they depart without any delay. For when a Ruach has come to Amunah of Yahuwah, it obtains the virtue of the heavenly water. Isn't that what they had in the furnace? He said he sent the mist around it, the fire didn't touch them. They obtain the virtue of the heavenly water, by which it extinguishes the demons like a spark of fire. Why do you think he sent a mist in the middle of the fire, in the midst of the fiery furnace? Those who, ain't no one greater. Now, do you still believe there's people greater than those who fear Yahuwah? Because there's only one Elohim who can deliver this way. There's only one Elohim, Nebuchadnezzar like. There's only one Elohim who can do this. There ain't no other Elohim on earth that can deliver people like this. Out of these situations and trials, we need to see, because everybody want to see. The only reason you're in the situation you're in right now, because they want to see if Yahuwah going to deliver you, because they don't believe in you, Elohim. That's the whole point. They don't believe in you. Right? This is Dead Sea Scrolls, column 6, 4Q257. These are the paths in the world to enlighten the heart of Adam. Straighten out in front of him all the paths of true justice, establishing his heart respects for the precepts of Elohim in the Ruach of Anu, meekness, and patience and generous compassion, eternal goodness, intelligent understanding, potent wisdom, which trusts in all the deeds of Elohim, depends on his abundant mercy. Isn't that what he did in the furnace? He said they trust, Nebuchadnezzar said they trusted in their Elohim, and not in our Elohims, and not our God. And they depended on his abundant mercy inside of the furnace. If he don't deliver us, he able to. A ruach of knowledge in all the paths of action, of enthusiasm of decrees of justice and set apart plans, firm purpose and generous compassion, with all the sons of truth, of a magnificent purity which detests all unclean idols. And then what they did? Till the servants a bottle sealed in their forehead first. Then those are going to get tested, and then everybody's going to be, they're Elohim. Of careful behavior and wisdom concerning everything, of concealment concerning the truth of the mysteries and the knowledge. These are the foundations of the Ruachs, of the sons of truth in the world, and the reward of those who walk in it will be healing, plentiful shalom, peace, and long life. Fruitful offspring with everlasting blessings, Barak, eternal enjoyment in this life, a crown of kabod and majestic raiment in eternal life. However, the Ruach of deceit, the lawless ones, the infidelity, the ones that get thrown in the furnace, belongs greed, sluggishness in the service of justice. And even Nebuchadnezzar wasn't sluggish in his justice when he did some evil. Even though it was evil, but when they said they weren't going to do it, but he did it immediately. He wasn't sluggish in nothing. That's how Yahuwah is. But for some reason, he said, for my own name's sake, I defer my anger right now. For my name's sake. Greed, sluggish in the service of justice, wickedness, falsehood, pride, haughtiness of heart, dishonesty, trickery, cruelty, much insecurity, impatience, much foolishness, infinite enthusiasm for appalling acts performed in lustful passion, filthy past in the service of impurity, blasphemous tongue, blindness of eyes, hardness of hearing, stiffness of neck, hardness of heart, in order to walk in the paths of darkness and evil cunning. That's why he said, certain Yahudim didn't do it, but other Yahudim did. It just depends on where you at. People say, my heart is this way. Right? It all depends. And the visitation of those who walk in it will be abundance of afflictions at the hand of the Malachia of destruction for eternal damnation and scorching wrath of the Elohim and every vengeance. Because he gonna do it. For permanent terror and shame, without end, with the humiliation of destruction by fire of the dark regions. What do you think that fire is? When you get thrown, people say, what is that fire he's gonna throw you into? The furnace of the furnace that he gonna throw people into? That's the fire of the dark regions. You ever seen music? I ain't never seen the fire of the dark regions. I ain't never either. And that's the fire you're gonna be thrown inside. That's the fire of the dark regions. What do you think that fiery furnace he was talking about, Yahushua was talking about, when he gets in his Malachia to gather in the rotten sticks? And that's all you are, a rotten stick to him. You're not even attached to a tree. You're like a rotten stick. You ever picked up a rotten stick in the land on your property, and you pick up a rotten stick? The only thing you're thinking about is like, how am I gonna get rid of this stick? And you ain't thinking about, what am I gonna do with this stick? I'm gonna put it back on the tree. No, it's a rotten stick. You only thing you think about, I'm gonna burn it, I'm gonna bury it, I'm gonna grind it into something and turn it to make something else, right? That's what you're thinking about. And it says the fire of the dark regions, right? Right? For permanent terror and shame. Actually, and the visitation of those who walk in it will be abundance of afflictions of the Malachia, destruction, and eternal damnation, and the scorching wrath of the Elohim and the vengeance. For permanent terror and shame without end, with humiliation of destruction of the fire of the dark regions, in all the ages of their generations, and they shall spend in bitter weeping and harsh evils. And then what he said, they're going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. You say, Dead Sea Scrolls ain't have nothing to do with Yahushua, what he said. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. They dug those books up a long time ago. Yes, it did. They know what they were digging up. Those books there's a lot more books they got hidden from you, right? Because they don't want you to know. They want you to continue on, go sin, have a nice, great time, and keep on doing wrong and sinning so he can throw you in the dark regions like he's going to throw us in the dark regions. No. They need to bring the books out, Rob, because you just not, no. In all the ages of their generations, they shall spend in bitter weeping and harsh evils in the abyss of the darkness until destruction, until it's all consumed. You know how fire consumes the wood and just keeps consuming till it's no. To its ashes. Without there being a remnant or survivor for them. It ain't gonna be, you know how they were thrown in the furnace? They were surviving. They survived. They was one like the son of Adam, the son of Yahuwah in there. They had a fourth person in there. They survived it. But he said when this happens, there ain't gonna be no survivor. Right? This, because the 12th month is Lamed. It's the 12th month, it's Lamed staff. It means expert, direction, instruction. Staff rod means teach, discipline, protection, refrain, comfort, control. Right? That's what you gotta have. That's what the body laid. The Lamed staff does for your body to get self-control. You know how it talks about kind of how put joy, peace, patience, meekness, faithfulness, gentleness, goodness, self-control, right? Control, lay, la, right? Lamed Ba'i, teacher of your body, the expert of your body. It means to ward, go, teach, yoke, authority, bind. Right, that's what it means. It means discipline. Discipline, right? Because that's all a part of it. Discipline. Right? Because that's what he does. Right, this Nazarene Ashar Shalakim, suggestions of the old serpent. Above all, Therefore you ought to understand the deception of the old serpent and his cunning suggestions to deceive you, as it were by prudence, and by reasons creeps to your senses, by reasons of sort creeps through your senses, and deceiving you a great gain. Therefore he enunciates in your minds opinions of Elohim, and whatsoever kinds, only that your sins is his comfort. For he, for his immorality, was condemned from the beginning to eat dust. For that he caused to again be resolved to the dust him who was taken from the dust, even to the time when your beings will be restored, being brought through the fire, as we will instruct you more fully at another time. Right? But guess what? He just did. He said, man, they got taken through the fire. Purified 7 times. That's the only way you're going to be purified. The only way you're going to get purified is to be punished for your sins. What do you think they were punished? They were punished for their sins. They were in the fiery furnace because of our sins. That's the only reason these things have happened to us. Why do you think they were ruled over by another person? That's the only way you're going to get purified. By his debar purifying you and being punished for your sins. How else? How else are you going to get purified? From him, therefore, proceeds all errors and doubts. And when you're getting purified by the debar, he's going to be putting errors and doubts. And when you're in the situation where when you getting punished for your sins, he's going to still be putting errors and doubts in your mind. He don't care. He do not care. Because his whole goal is to do this, by which you are driven from Amunah and believe in one Elohim, so you can't extinguish the demons with like a spark of fire. Because he wants the demons to stay inside of you. He wants to continue to rule over you, so therefore he doesn't want that fire to be extinguished, the demons to be extinguished. So he takes you from one Elohim and belief in one Elohim Yahuwah. Why? Because he wants you to worship his gods, his Elohim. He don't want you to trust in Yahuwah no more. That's the only reason he does it. That's the only reason he keeps spewing our errors and doubt. And that's when the Amunah has to kick in, and he says, if you don't deliver me, he able. But I do know that Yahuwah exists. And I'm not worshiping your Elohim, O King, Malak, O mother, father, sister, brother, husband, wife, pastor, teacher, moray. I'm not worshiping your gods. Priest, Kahan, necromancer, spirit channeler, wizard, warlock, remote viewer, doesn't matter. Sorcerer, witch. I'm not worshiping your gods. Astro projectors, right? Goddesses and gods. He said, I'm not worshiping your gods, right? That's how people say, what type of mindset you got? Because that's the whole point. He said, what type of deliverance you think you're going to get if you don't trust Yahuwah and get out and you trust in him in all your heart, mind, soul? What type of deliverance? Ain't no deliverance coming from them. I assure you, it's going to be temporary. He said, how do you know it's going to be temporary? All you do is ask Saul, Asa, right? Ask Cain, right? All these other people, right? There's a whole bunch of other people. Nimrud, Ham's son, Esau, Asu. You can ask a whole bunch of people. Ask Korah, Kurach, Thalia, Isabel. Right? You can ask the fake Levite who threw his wife outside and got her cut her up into 12 pieces and send her all throughout Yasharal. Right? There's some people like that in this world today. And they're not even of Yasharal when they do that. Benjamin, the mountains, and judges, right? Men with men, women, right? Destroying all the women, right? Doing all types of crazy things, right? They be like, Shaul said it in Romans 1. Nah, he was talking about judges. He talking about Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah, he was talking about the sons of Nuach. It's the same family, same people. He was talking about sons of Adam who came off of Nuach, came off the ship, and multiplied on the earth afterwards. Same people. Right. They had a God there too, with Abraham's father too. They tried to get him worship. Same thing. No difference. They were slaves too back then. They weren't just slaves with Yasharal and Deuteronomy 28 and slave shit. They had slaves back in Tahor and Eber, and Nuach was still alive too. All of them, right? So, but it says, Sirach 3:17-23, my son, go on thy business in meekness, so shall be beloved of him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. That's what Yahushua was. He said he humbled himself like a servant, even to the point of death. Till the servants are sealed in their forehead. You're going to have humility. To humble yourself to the point of death, to be thrown in the fiery furnace and taken through fiery trials and tribulation. And people hating you, and then you still got to take all that. It's like slandering you, taking you for court cases and false accusations and all that. And you got to deal with that. You got to pay money too. Right, then you gotta get your anger in control because you want to retaliate. Right, all that stuff, man. People have no idea. You gotta stay humble. Right, you gotta be so humble where somebody do some violence, you put the ear back on. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before Yahuwah. That's the only way you're gonna get out of the situation. That's the only way. If you say, I'm gonna go in there fire hot. Right? No, you're not going to get out of the situation. You're going to stay in that situation. You're going to repeat it over and over and over and over again until you get humble when you go in the situation. It's really that simple. Many are in high places and of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the Anu. Why? Because he told Mashah. When he saw Mashah turn aside to see why this bush was not consumed, he said, why is this not Achor? Why is this not Baar? Yahuwah said, take your shoes off your feet, for this is Kudash ground. I am the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. Because that's how he worked. Because he loved it, sir, Abad. You know why he loves it? Because he was doing something that most people can't do. Right? Well, he said, why he loved Mashah? Right? He said, why he love Mashah? I'm going to show you why he loved him so much. I'm going to show you why he loved this guy. Right? This is Luke chapter 16, or 16. This is why he loved Yahushua so much. He said, why Yahushua talking about, I'm just like Mashah? He said, I'm the manager over you, right? Luke 16:8. And he said, you put your whole trust in Mashah, whom you trust. But Mashah wrote about me, because I'm the better manager than he was. Where do you think he learned it from? Right? He said, Luke 16:8. The master commended this honest manager for his shrewdness. Right, going to verse 10. Verse 10. One who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much. And the one who is dishonest in a very little is dishonest in much. So don't expect nothing. Do not expect nothing. If it's dishonest in little, don't expect it when they get a lot. Verse 11. If then you have been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust you with true riches? And if you have not been faithful in that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? And what Mashah was, he was walking the sheep of the priest of Midian. It wasn't even his own. It was his father-in-law's stuff. He was going through the mountains and the wilderness with somebody else's stuff. That's the same thing Yaakov did. He said, and if you have not been faithful in that which is another, who will give you that which is your own? No servant can serve two masters. He's like, hold on. You can't serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. Right? Going back to Sirach 3:20. For the power of Yahuwah is great and honored with the lowly. Right? That's the whole point. Seek not out things that are too hard for thee, neither search for things that are above thy strength. Why? But what is commanded thee, think thereupon with reverence, for it is not needful for thee to see with thy eyes the things that are in secret. Be not curious in unnecessary matters, for more things are showed unto thee than men and women and children understand. All right, so I'm going to end with this. All right, so this is the book of 2nd Enoch. 2nd Enoch, chapter 54. 2nd Enoch, Pseudepigrapha, volume 1. 2nd Enoch, chapter 54. In verse, 2nd Enoch, chapter 54. At that time, about this ignorance of ours, so that they may be for your inheritance of peace. Shalom. The books which I have given to you, do not hide them to all who wish to recite them, so that they may know about the extremely marvelous works of Yahuwah. Happy is he who preserves the foundations of where they have been made sure. Right. Cursed is he who destroys the rules and restrictions of his fathers. Say what? Why do you think he said all these curses gonna come? He said, man, you destroy the rules and restrictions of his fathers. And guess what? Happy, or say Simcha, is he who establishes shalom. They say shalom, shalom to within you. Peace, shalom within you. Cursed is he who strikes down those who are in peace. Say what? And guess what? Shemka is he who speaks shalom, and he who possesses peace. Shalom, shalom. Peace, peace to Yerushalayim. Pray for shalom for Yerushalayim. Right? And guess what? Cursed is he who speaks peace, but there is no peace in his heart. Cause you know why? Because there's no peace, said my Elohim to the wicked. Because there's no way you can say shalom when you got a wicked heart. And you what? And you destroy the rules and restrictions of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov, and the fathers, and Noach, and Adam, and Methuselah, and Hanuk. It says all this will make itself known in the scales, right? In the balance, in the book, on the great day of judgment. So look at all that. Look at the great day of judgment. For it's appointed that man wants to die, then shafat, then damn, right? Then you be judged for every work that you have done under the sun. But nothing new under the sun that man can do. What new sin that somebody can do? They can come up with another way. But in actuality, the same sins that have been destroying man since the beginning of the world. Right? The evil cunnings and the craftiness and the doubts of Satan get you away from one Elohim and one Yahuwah, Elohim. So we look at Yahushua Mashiach, we look at the light of life, we look at the ore that shines in the beginning on the first day, that gives light even to the fourth day. So how can you be a light in the world when you don't even know that the ore that came in the beginning? He said, let there be light, that the shamash and the kukab in the yard can shine forth light. And that didn't even happen through 3 days later. But even as it was 3 days and 3 years of darkness in Mizraim, so after those 3 days, he said, this day shall be the beginning of months for you. It shall be the first of the year for you. But even as this is the last month of the year, he said, look for the transition times of the new life, the new understanding, and to clean the filth out of your house, out of your inward man. So we look at ourselves, we look at our inward self, look at our inward being. We do the light through the truth and the Torah through the inward man. He offered a tahor minka, a taher minka, or a clean offering to Yahuwah in righteousness. That the offering of Yehuda and Yerushalayim may be pure again. So look at all the people that came before time, even as Hanuk walked with Elohim, and Yahuwah took him. Ruach Marakaf al Panim took him from the earth. And yet, he didn't see death. Even as Yahushua, this man didn't see corruption, and he didn't see death. But he was 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth and ascended back to his Father. And he's soon to return again. So we look at ourselves, we look at that returning as our redemption. And will you be able to see it? And will you turn aside to see it? Even as Mashah looked at the fiery bush and said, why is this bush not consumed? Why? Because one has the fear of Elohim and they trust in Yahuwah. We walk in them, he said, go in our business at new. The church shall be beloved to him that is approved. The greater thou art, the more humble thyself. You shall find favor before Yahuwah. Many are in high places of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the Anu, the meek. For the meek shall inherit the earth. The Anu shall inherit the Adars.